Assignment 4, a group project by Terry, Marianne, Kyle and Rolf.
Asuncion Knowles, played and narrated by Marianne Hummel.
Pierre Winger, played and narrated by Rolf Runkel.
Philippe Cranton, played and narrated by Kyle Kelly.
Berta, played and narrated by Teresa Boatswain.
Hi guys, wonderful to see you.
Hi Philip.
Hi Phil.
Come on and sit down, we are having some wine already.
We are still waiting for Berta. I am sure she will ride in any minute.
Good to see you again. What are you both drinking?
Hello Diego, how are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Hello friends, sorry for letting you wait.
Very good to see you again, Berta. You look fabulous as always.
It has been too long since we have seen each other, this is great. I think I need a drink too, what are you drinking?
My prima suggesta Rioja, a wonderful Spanish red wine.
That seems like the perfect choice.
I will have the same, thank you Diego.
Thank you, Diego. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers you all.
Cheers to some great conversations.
I don't know about you guys, but I always found my experience in high school to be boring and arduous. I wanted to live my experiences and participate in the world. I did not want to learn about Spain from a textbook in a classroom. I wanted to be out there, to smell it, to hear it, to have all my senses engaged. I recently returned from 1 month study tour in Spain, where members were able to participate in the planning of the itinerary. It was a great group of like-minded travelers.
I agree. I never really liked school, the conformity of it. I always wanted to get out there, get some practical experience, learn hands-on, you know?
My wine's great. However, to be honest, I know next to nothing about how wines are produced. I just know that I like a strong flavor, but that's about it.
Well, that's why I'm glad I decided to further my education by working on my Eno-Tourism certification. It was important to me to see and learn how a vineyard operates. Our group planned a short work experience at Donna Felisa Winery in Andalusia. It was harvest while we were there, and we were able to immerse ourselves in the culture by participating in the picking of the grapes.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Getting out there and learning for yourself, letting your experiences expand your learning. So much better than boring books. That's exactly what I enjoyed about apprenticing. So much of it was up to us to learn. It was all about being interested and motivating ourselves to be successful. You didn't show up, you didn't get paid. So how was the rest of the tour?
You know guys, the same holds true for me. Having been immersed in different cultures and their practices was what created those relevant and meaningful learning opportunities for me, which will stick with me for life.
Well, the best part of that is we were able to work side by side with the experienced pickers. They mostly came from Poland, and we learned from them their unique way on how to select a bunch without damaging the grapes or vines. They encouraged us to taste as we picked in order to determine the ripeness.
You know, I see that too with a lot of the buildings I'm working on. It's like the guys from different parts of the world think differently. Even when I try to work with them, it's like they've learned an entirely other way of working. When I ask them about it, they tell me it's from their experiences that they've developed as builders.
Philip, I think this falls under the realm of Wenger and Bandura's social learning theory. They posit that we learn from others and learn from their modeling and behaviors, and that much of human learning is actually based on observations. Social theory also argues that cognitive behavior is influenced by environmental factors and also the community of practice with which we engage or are immersed in.
I can say that I've also been able to draw in key learning from my program. I've been very involved in different projects where the ideas of social movement learning have been applied. My organization is structured so that we work in small teams, moving together through different projects. At the moment, we're heavily involved in the planning for the movement, which has formed around a fight for a living wage. Maybe you know it. And for a series of upcoming actions, I'm responsible for pulling together the research, reading lists, and reporting for 3 main areas, namely keynote speakers' speeches at rallies, the detailed leaflets distributed by organizers, and third, all content for the Train the Trainer workshops and retreats that I facilitate. I once learned that social movement learning is about providing people with the tools to transform their lives. And I actually feel that with this support, our organization is really making a difference.
Berta, interestingly, that is the main reason Polish workers come to Spain to work. The minimum wage is higher. Poland might benefit from your project. Those look delicious, Philip.
They are pretty tasty and remind me of your cooking from back in the day.
I will invite you all for dinner to get your perspective on my Spanish cooking. I knew the basics before I joined a group for an advanced cooking class in Barcelona. We had way too much fun creating this meal together. Some things turned out better than others, but I'm not afraid to try it again and see if I can improve on what I already know. You can be my guinea pigs to practice on.
Talking about different ethnic foods, I would say most of my continued training in my career as a chef was through experiencing different cultures and their foods while traveling. Most of it was unconscious. I never thought of it as learning, but rather as broadening my horizon and motivated by curiosity, sometimes inspired by great masses of the trade. I guess that could be a form of social learning and influence by a community of practice.
Asuncion, did you study the Moors while in Granada, Spain? I would be really interested to learn specifically about how they inspired Spanish cooking, but also the culture and the language. I mean, the reign lasted a few hundred years, didn't it? Surely their influence has been significant.
700 years, Berta, and the most significant contribution must be their architecture. Being in the trades, Philip, you would have enjoyed the Alhambra in Granada. Our instructor, who led the tour, introduced us to it. Fortifications are not really my thing, but seeing the Moorish architecture and wandering the halls, listening to the enthusiasm of our guide, gave me a new appreciation for the Moors' contribution to European history.
You guys have all brought up some great examples of experiential learning. I suppose my experiences would fall also into the same category to some extent. What about you guys? What learning have you done outside the classroom since you left the class?
Pretty much all my learning is with you in that sense. On-the-job learning. My apprenticeship was with a great mentor. He really let me do my own thing, make my own mistakes, and learn from them. What I found was that I did tend to have to defend my position sometimes though, justify what I thought was right, since the other apprentices and the more senior journeymen had differing opinions to me.
Well, I can say that my apprenticeship has prepared me very well for the sort of work that I'm doing right now. I'll never forget one assignment that a professor gave us in a course called Social Movements. In the course, we are encouraged to assemble in small groups in accordance with our different social interests. And while power relations has always been an interest of mine, my research has dabbled mainly in intersectional issues having to do with class, gender, and race. However, my group mates came from environmental studies, social work, law, adult education. In any case, once our groups were formed, we were tasked with observing a protest or a demonstration as it unfolded. Not only did we witness events from the sidelines, but we got involved by engaging the participants. I suppose it was a sort of field study, but it was a great way to learn. In fact, in this past year, I have borrowed a good number of methods from that course. In fact, in addition to being present, the practical tools have helped me better understand the issues, which means that I can provide more in-depth information to the community organizers and the groups that I work with.
For me, guys, participating in the study tour taught me so much about Spain, but also about myself as a traveler. I kept a journal of my experiences to help me write my report. We submitted the report to our instructor and we received experiential credit in our program. I now contribute more in class, having the confidence to share my experience. I definitely now appreciate the differences in the grape varietals and their growing regions, and I now seem to spend a heck of a lot of time at the liquor stores reading labels.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Backstage. My name is Kyle Kelly, and I play Philip Cranton in the upcoming piece From Theory to Practice. This segment of the show is called Tweet to the Truth, where fans write in and ask questions about upcoming works. So let's go ahead and get started. The first question is from Sarah Colford, coming from Edmonton, Alberta, who asks, Cranton, why Cranton? Well, Sarah, it's a great question, and actually it's quite simple. The character's name is based off a very popular writer and theorist, Patricia Cranton, who wrote much about constructivism and its role in education. Knowing this little piece actually really helped me, as the actor, to define Philip's mindset and his perspectives. I think that it really comes out in the piece. As you see, he's grown up in a lower income environment. He's had to fend for himself, and that's made him into a believer of constructivism. Rather than simply accepting things as he's told they are, he challenges those preconceived notions. He wants to make up his own knowledge, and as he learns, he grows. What he thinks is right, despite what others may believe. And that tends to be the case until they've swayed his opinion, which is fundamental in this constructivist approach. I hope that answers your question. Next up, I have Mark Anderson from Kelowna, BC. And Mark asks, how did you prepare for this role? Thank you, Mark. Well, that's a question that actors typically get fairly often. And being a tradesman for employment, Philip had a little bit of a different perspective. So it was a unique opportunity for me to kind of get under his skin and see what he was all about. So doing some research beforehand, I noticed Philip, his mentality aligned fairly closely actually with another theorist, Piaget, and Piaget's theory of cognitive development. This was a good place for me to work from when becoming his character, because Philip didn't conform well in traditional schools, but he learned from experimental learning, from on-the-job training as apprenticeship. That made him who he is. I dabbled in that a little bit myself while I was preparing for the role, and I really, really noticed that it actually opened up a whole new perspective for me. That hands-on learning, that physical imprint that you get from it really helps you to establish your own knowledge as you're moving forward, and gives you a very practical outlook on learning and how it can go. And finally, we have Michelle from Ottawa, who writes, what do you think motivates your character? And thank you for your question, Michelle. This is a great one, Michelle, because motivation is really important when it comes to learning. When it came to Philip, he's a creative problem solver, and he really likes to believe he can find the solution to a problem by self-study and independence. He was a strongly opinionated, he was a stubborn individual about his beliefs. Whatever he thought was true was true. But he was also very passionate. He was a really effective learner when he was on tasks that he enjoyed. That, I think, would be his main motivation, the enjoyment of the experience and the learning. So, again, I hope that answers your question. And that's all the time we have for today, so thank you everyone for writing in. Please tune in next time to The Backstage, and have a great afternoon.
My name is Terry, and I play the role of Beata Lindemann Frere in the movie, Out of the Classroom and Into the Real World. I suppose the thing that really drew me to this role was the fact that Beata is in her mid-40s. She holds an undergraduate degree in political science, a master's in adult education, and I felt drawn to the fact that she has transitioned to a new career after her apprenticeship and works now at a local non-governmental organization which provides strategic planning, training, and research services to community organizers on a full range of different social issues. In any case, I suppose in large part I was also attracted by her strength and determination. And when this script came across my desk, I just knew that I really wanted to play this role. The approach that I employed, I played this from the critical approach. And in preparation for the film, I studied from the readings of Paulo Freire, Lindemann, and some other critical theorists. And I really wanted to portray Beata as someone who enjoyed vibrant exchanges with others, even where there were dissenting points of view. I believe this to be most important for following the critical school of thought. And finally, and this is the thing that really kept me focused, it was my mantra throughout the taping of this particular film. While studying for the part, I remember reading somewhere, and I can't remember where now, that the personal is political. And it's this credo that I really wanted to infuse into Beata's role.
Marianne, thank you for joining us on Backstage.
Thanks for having me, Kyle.
So, what drew you to playing your character, Asuncion Knowles?
I really connected with Asuncion's character. In the play, Asuncion is obviously a relation to Malcolm Knowles, who theorized adult learners. He suggests 4 principles in adult learning that I certainly live my life by. I enjoy participating in the planning and evaluation of my own learning, and I wholeheartedly believe that experience, including mistakes, provides the basis for the learning activities. As you saw in the play, Asuncion related most of her conversation to her experiences while in Spain. It was all relevant activity that impacted her personal life and her future career in wine tourism. Malcolm also suggests that adult learning is problem-centered rather than content-oriented. I look at the obstacles I've overcome to be successful in my career, the courses I've taken, the costs, and the hustle of finding the gigs.
Asuncion, why do you think the writers came up with that name?
That's an easy one, Kyle. Malcolm Knowles made several assumptions about adult learners, and Asuncion is Spanish for assumption. He claims that adult learners are ready and willing to learn. They have a good self-concept and much experience to draw from. They are self-directed and motivated internally. These assumptions are the basis of the term andragogy, which Knowles established to identify the difference between child learners and adult education.
Well, Marianne, thank you for sharing your character with us today on Backstage.
You're welcome, Kyle.
So, one of the questions presented to me from one of our followers was this: how was Wenger's social learning theory relevant to the career of Chef Pierre's character? Well, Etienne Wenger's social learning theory and the concept of community of practice are theories that resonate very strongly with Pierre's career development. The concept of those theories is what influenced his training throughout his life as a chef, from a traditional apprenticeship in Europe to the on-the-job training opportunities and learning from other great master chefs, learning about new styles of food from his travels and from experiences being immersed in different cultures. An apprenticeship type training is all about social learning. master chefs share knowledge with their apprentices and rather directly influence them in their learning. And the close connections to professional guilds, which provide guidance to trades, create a community of practice. So you can see the influence of Wenger's social learning theory was quite tremendous.